Thank you very much, Ghalim Jan, for this very generous and gracious introduction. Friends, a very warm welcome to each and every one of you after this sumptuous lunch. I think this is the most difficult and challenging session in any conference or seminar when you invite everyone to come and participate and attend and make sure that they keep awake and they don't doze off and don't get into a nap. But I think I have fullest confidence in my panelists because the responsibility, in fact, devolves upon them to make sure that their presentations are interesting and exciting. And I don't have the slightest doubt that with this eminent group of panelists, that we'll be able to not only attract and arrest your attention, but also have a very significant and a very meaningful discussion after that. Friends, in the morning two sessions, we have spoken about the role and the contribution, number one, that private sector can make, and number two, that the civil society can make as far as achievement of the sustainable development goals is concerned. This session is going to be devoted to what is the role and what is the contribution that governments can make. And I'm sure you would agree and appreciate that governments come really at the cutting edge of the implementation of any policy. And this is indeed what has also been mentioned as far as the sustainable development goals are concerned, that the governments would be required to integrate these 17 goals and the 169 targets into the policies that they are going to formulate and that they are going to implement over the next 15 years. So the role and the task of the governments is very vital, is very crucial, and is very critical. But let's also have a look at, all these 17 goals that have been agreed to as to what is the capacity and what is the capability of the governments as far as implementing these decisions is concerned. I'm sure several of you would recall that when initially it was decided in 2012, when the discussions on Rio Plus 20, Rio meeting in 1992, the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, that took place in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. And then after that, Rio Plus 20 again took place. And then it was decided that after MDGs expire, they would be replaced by the SDGs. And the SDGs would be simple in content, easy to understand, and not too complex and not too difficult to understand. Now, if you were to ask any person on the street outside whether these 17 goals are they simple, are they easy to understand, I think you will get very many different answers. So I think this is one of the most uh, important challenges that governments will have to confront, that these 17 goals and 169 indicators are very complex. The number is far too large to be able to be dealt effectively by any governments. Just to give you an example, we had the Millennium Development Goals were 8 in number. In terms of the targets, there were about 18. In terms of the indicators, we had about 60. So 8, 18, 60. And here we have already 17 goals, 169 targets, and in terms of indicators, it is the respective governments which will draw them up. So such a huge number, will the governments really be able to concentrate? Will the governments really be able to focus? And will the governments really be able to do justice to this? I think this is the first big question that the governments will need to address. I remember that, and in India we have a fairly well-developed bureaucracy, and in our 12th five-year plan we had only 25 monitorable indicators. And that was found extremely difficult by the government to deal with, to find all the details, to find all the data, the up-to-date data, the current data. And that is going to be a big problem. It's going to be a big problem even for the United Nations, because the United Nations will be required to look at all the 193 countries and see how they are performing as far as all these goals and targets are concerned. And for them to be able to deal with all the countries in all these numbers is also going to be a huge challenge. So this is something that we will need to keep in mind. The other is in terms of the availability of human resources, availability of human capital. First of all, to be able to understand, and then to be able to implement, then to devise the targets and to find every year over the next 15 years as to how much, how well we have been able to achieve it, how far we have been able to go. And I think this, particularly as far as developing countries is concerned, is going to be a big challenge. I know that as far as the Millennium Development Goals, it was said that these were certain goals that were identified for the developing countries to implement, whether it was in terms of poverty reduction, or it was in terms of health, or it was in terms of education, or it was in terms of sanitation or child infant mortality. These were basically to be achieved by the developing countries with some financial support from the developed world. But here, these goals are global in nature, they are universal in nature. So it will have to be done, but much of the responsibility will fall upon the developing countries to develop the human resources, to develop the human capital, and also, as I mentioned, the lack of availability of authentic data. I think data and current data being available, so that you know that you are moving on the right path and how well are you moving. The other aspect is what has been discussed briefly in the morning sessions also, the issue of good governance, because we see that in most of the countries, it is, whether it is issues of corruption, whether it is issues of governance, they are the ones that come to the fore. And here also, I think when the governments are trying to implement it, this is going to be a big this is going to be a big problem. The As far as if we want to take arrange for funds and resources, essentially it has to come from the domestic economy. That means the economies have to perform well. Only then will the countries be able to generate the necessary revenue and the adequate revenue. Of course, here also, when we are talking about protection of environment, we are talking about the achievement of these goals. We always also focus on what is known as the principle of equity, and what is known as common but differentiated responsibility, particularly in the area of climate change and in the area of protection of environment. So we look at funds and resources being made available to developing countries by the developed world, and also adequate appropriate technology coming in. But the responsibility also devolves upon national governments for their economies to perform well. And I think what we are seeing around the world, how the economies are doing, and in terms of resources being generated from there, that is also going to be a huge challenge. So what has been said is that the implementation of all these SDGs has to be done at the bottom, that is at the grassroots level, whether it is the civil society, whether it is the think tanks, academia, and others who have to, but the monitoring has to be done at the top, that is by the government. And in that context, there has to be good synergy that has to be established between the all the stakeholders, because all these goals are also interrelated. For instance, if you look at ending poverty, that is also equally related to ending hunger, because when there is poverty, you cannot end hunger. And if you are not able to end poverty, it is impossible to attain the third goal, that is ensure healthy lives, or to have equitable quality of education. All these 17 goals are cross-linked, are interrelated. So I think that will be another challenge in terms of how the governments deal with it. And particularly when we come to the somewhat later goals of protecting the environment and promoting ecological balance. So these are some of the challenges that the governments will have to contend with. These are some of the challenges that governments will have to confront with. And I think all these issues and how to deal with these issues are the eminent panelists that we have. They are going to address some of those, and then I look forward to having a very useful and a very exciting discussion after that. I have great pleasure in first of all inviting. I understand that our friend and colleague and panelist from Tanzania has to leave a little early because the Tanzanian president is going to address the UN General Assembly in the afternoon. So I have great pleasure in inviting Dr. George Francis Nangale. He's the president of the Tanzanian Red Cross Society. He graduated in agricultural engineering in 1988 and pursued postgraduate studies in renewable energy and environment science, business administration, and philosophy, very diverse subjects, which best position him to deal with the complex development process. His lifelong involvement in humanitarian service, delivery as a Red Cross volunteer and a rural development advocate in Tanzania project his enormous experiences in leadership and management towards achieving national and international cooperation development goals. He has written several books on political philosophy and served as a member of the East African Parliament from 2001 to 2012. He was elected the president of the Tanzania Red Cross Society and subsequently member of the International Federation of the Red Cross governing body from 2013 to 2015. He is currently an entrepreneur and a Doctor of Business Administration scholar on contact farming research with Maastricht School of Management and the East and Southern African Management.